If Clemson wants a shot at defeating Georgia, we have to have an outstanding performance from a couple key rookies.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can follow us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member for the Clemson Tigers. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. After this show, make sure you listen to one of the other 200 plus podcasts from Locked On Podcast Network. But here on Locked On Clemson, you're getting three things: all sports, all passion, all of the time. We're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is Wednesday, August 28th. Happy birthday, Dad. But we're going to be having a great episode where we're talking about some key rookies and the performance they need. We're talking about Ryan Lithicum and what we need from him at center. And then we're going to end the episode talking about how Clemson and Georgia are pretty even when it comes to the defensive line. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app now. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time app now. Today, what time is it? It's game time. If Clemson wants a shot at defeating Georgia on Saturday, 3 days away, we have to have an outstanding performance from some of our rookies. Last year, Clemson didn't have the season that we wanted. We didn't have the turnout. We didn't have the success. We didn't have the season that was desired nor expected. And we had a good amount of talent. Now, this year, we're expecting better than last year, but we lost a couple key opponents. We lost wide receiver, Bo Collins, who's transferred out. We lost Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who graduated and got drafted. We lost Nate Wiggins, who got drafted. Will Shipley, who got drafted. We lost Ruka Roror. We lost players all across the field. We lost a longtime center that snapped. We lost some key players. And so now, with expecting better results this year, with wanting more, with wanting to have more success, more potential, more wins, more long-term success, with wanting that and losing some of that talent, we have got to have a great season from some of our rookies. Dabo had a press conference today or Wednesday after practice, and they asked him, they started talking to him like, hey, what do you expect? What do you need? What does this Clemson team need when it comes to Georgia? And a big thing that he talked about was his excitement level about some rookies. He talked about 5 key leaders at first, and they asked him, hey, Coach Dabo, what rookies are you excited about seeing in action? He named 5 of them. The 2 that he mentioned, and honestly, how he mentioned these, I'm very surprised. He mentioned 2 wide receivers, and he mentioned Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. The majority of the offseason, we've heard that TJ Moore is probably going to have more of an impact right away than Bryant Wesco. Heard that TJ he was at a different level. He's making the steps needed, and Bryant Wesco needed a little bit more. So most of the offseason, we've heard TJ Moore is probably going to have more impact right away. That's not what he said this interview. Here's what he said. This is a quote straight from Dabo. We've got a few that I'm really excited about. He said, I think Wesco is probably one that jumps out. I mean, he's ready to go. Wesco, he's really ready to roll. So I'm excited to see him there. Hopefully we can get TJ in there as well. He's really close to kind of taking the next step that we need him to. All right, so all offseason, all spring, all fall, we've heard that TJ Moore's the guy. Now we're hearing Dabo talk about how maybe Bryant Wesco is going to be the one that we see a little bit more than we see from TJ Moore. When you look at our depth chart, especially the receiving part, neither of them are in the starters. I think our big 3 receivers right now are Adam Randall, Antonio Williams, and Tyler Brown. I think those are our 3 that we can rely on the most. Our backup slot is probably going to be Troy Stellato, but usually throughout the offseason, when you look at like expected and updated Clemson Tiger depth charts, which the official team isn't putting one out until Saturday at game time, so I guess trying to hold their cards close, but they've had TJ Moore being that wide receiver 4, Troy Stellato being wide receiver 5, and then Bryant Wesco wide receiver 6. recently, and I think it's because of this interview, they switched that up, and now Bryant Wesco is our wide receiver 4, that first one off the bench. It sounds like Dabo's really expecting him to come out and have a big performance. It sounds like he's expecting him to come out, play well, play hot, get the reps, make the catches needed, get in there and make some field. I mean, Bryant Wesco's a great player. He's got size. He's got such great speed. I mean, he can book it. I think we'll see him on. I think we'll see him on kickoff returns. I know he's ran some in the fall camp and in some practices and scrimmages. I think we'll see him there a little bit. That it's really exciting. Well, of course, we're going to see Adam Randall, who's our starting wide receiver. We're going to see Antonio Williams. We're going to see Tyler Brown. And one thing I love, this side note, our starting receivers are young. Adam Randall's a junior. Antonio Williams is a redshirt sophomore, and Tyler Brown's only a sophomore as well, coming off a great rookie season or freshman season. That's exciting. Exciting to see that. But now Dabo's saying if we want to win, if we're got to be excited, we got to see Bryant Wesco make a difference. And here's why. Last year, our wide receivers were kind of disappointing is pretty much the only word you can say. I know there was some injuries. Randall and Williams battled with some. Tyler Brown did good as a freshman, but Bo Collins was kind of the steady wide receiver that we used a lot. He's transferred out now. He's no longer with us. Bryant Wesco's got to help fill that gap. He's got to have that speed off the bench. He's got to come out and make some plays. So Bryant Wesco's got to play well. Really hope TJ Moore can take the steps that Dabo's looking for. I think those steps he's talking about are faster off the line. I've heard a couple of people say that when he gets off the line, TJ Moore is a little bit slow, taking that first initial couple steps. And then I think as well as just mentality of the game, kind of the pace of the game, making sure the play calls, formations, all the different audibles, making sure he's picking up on all of those. So hopefully those two can play well. I'm excited to see their involvement on Saturday when it comes down to it. Man, I love Adam Randall. I love Antonio Williams. They're great players, and I'm excited to watch them. How crazy would it be if our starting wide receivers by the end of the season was Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, and Tyler Brown? That'd be wild. It's not going to be, but that'd be crazy. I think that is the starters for the future, though. But yeah, so those are two rookies that he talked about making a difference. Another one he talked about was running back Jay Haynes. All through offseason, a lot of people expected Keith Adams Jr. to be our backup running back. But Jay Haynes, who's technically, he's not a true freshman. He is a redshirt freshman. But he talked about him. He said that Jay Haynes has got to come out there. Here's another quote. He said, we've got a couple young freshmen that aren't necessarily going to start for us, but I'm excited to see him. Like Jay Haynes. He's not a true freshman, but he might as well be because he was out all year last year. I'm excited to see him back out there and see what he can do. He also talked about a couple others. He talked about Sammy Brown and Ashton Humpton. Sammy Brown, here's what he said. And then Sammy Brown is a guy I think we're all excited about. He's a backup, a 2 for us, but he's going to be all over the field on special teams and all that type of stuff. So we've got a good group. And then he talks about Ashton Humpton, who's a guy in the secondary. Dabo says, I think he has a chance to really help us this year. There's a lot of rookies. Sammy Brown is our backup linebacker. I think he's going to be good. Right now, our starting linebackers are Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, and Jamal Anderson. I think Sammy Brown right now, if you look at expected depth charts, he's 3rd, but Dabo just said that he's the number 2 guy. So he'll get some playing time. We'll see him on the field in that rotation. If there's anything we know about Dabo, it's we know that he likes to get a lot of people on the field multiple times. So we'll be able to see him get some actions. Excited about that. And then the other guy that he talked about, that last rookie that he mentioned when they asked who he's excited about, which was Ashton Hampton. That's a guy that I think has gone under the radar a good amount of time this year. He is a backup cornerback. And right now he's backing up Avian Terrell, so I don't expect him to get that starting spot at all. Avian's pretty much our star cornerback, who's only a sophomore. But Terrell, I could see getting some time if there's any injuries or giving people a break, maybe coming in as the slot a little bit for Khalil Barnes, giving him a little bit of a break. But either way, he's going to be time. We have a lot of exciting young guys. I think this year's team is one of the most blended between experience and fresh out the book, a little bit more green. So I'm excited about that. It comes down to it, though. If we want to win against Georgia, we can't just rely on the experience. We need a great performance from some of these key rookies. But now enough talking about freshmen. Now let's talk about a guy who's played at Clemson his whole career, but now he's getting his first career start at a key position on Saturday against the Bulldogs. I don't know about y'all, But one of my favorite things to do is go to a live event. I love going and just watching a live sporting event, a live football game, a live baseball. There's nothing better than being in the stadium during the action. Some of my favorite moments are at Death Valley, watching the Tigers tackle it. If I'm going to get tickets, though, the place I go to is Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands. There's super deals, which allow you to find its fast deals on the biggest coming games upcoming soon. You can also go through and use different features such as customize your spot, which just allows you to have different things. There's great features when it comes to the Game Time app. You can seat views. You can view your seats in a panoramic aspect before you buy the ticket, so you know what you're getting. You also get the lowest price guaranteed, even event cancellation protection and job loss protection when it comes to all of that. All in pricing, then you can toggle the feature when it comes to this, because then you don't have any surprise when it comes into checkout. So you can either look at just the overall price or the price including all the fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app now, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time now today. What time is it? It's game time.
Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So guess what? I'm about to tell you a little bit more. We got a little something just for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't matter, because guess what? With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Yes, every regular season out-of-market game. That is so dope. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. And make sure you download America's #1 sportsbook.
College football is back, and it is not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, you can get it all from Locked On stable of college experts by subscribing to Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff? What team will cause chaos in their new conference? Everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ryan Linthicum has to play excellent in his first career start for us at center on Saturday. Our offensive line last year was something that was a little bit of a problem. We allowed 28 sacks last year. We allowed 28 sacks the year before. Our rushing game was nowhere near what we expected it to be, nowhere near what we thought it was going to be. But we've got to have our offensive line improve this year. And we talked about last week, earlier, we talked about our offensive line compared to Georgia. We gave the nod a little bit to Georgia. When it comes to starts on the offensive line, Georgia has one of the most experienced offensive lines when it comes to starting linemen on the offensive front than anyone in the nation. One of the schools that have more than them is Clemson. And what's crazy about that fact is while we have more starts on the offensive line than Georgia does, we have that with starting a center that has never started a game. Wednesday right now, Dabo Swinney, when he was talking to everybody earlier today, he announced that Ryan Linthicum had officially won the starting center battle. He didn't officially release a depth chart. He's waiting until Saturday to do that, but he accidentally revealed it in a comment. He said this. He said, the only one that hasn't started, talking about the number of offensive linemen that I've started before. He said, the only one that hasn't started is Linthicum. And Swinney said, he's set to get his first start this weekend. So he gave it away. Ryan Linthicum did win the center position, that center battle, over a couple others, over Trent Howard and Harris Sewell for the position. He's played at Clemson for 3 seasons now. This is his 4th, but he's only played in 9 games so far. Hasn't started any of them until this weekend. He's a redshirt junior. He's exited spring practice as the starters. And according to Yahoo Sports, he's remained in control during preseason practices as well. Our projected offensive line is going to be really good. You've got Tristan Lee at left tackle, very experienced. Marcus Tate at left guard, experienced. Linthicum at center. Walker Parks at right guard. And then the captain of the team on the offensive line is Blake Miller. We have also some really good backups. You've got Colin Sadler, Trent Howard, and Harris Sewell backing up them. We've talked about this in the past too. Clemson loves being a team that rotates. They love being a team. There were so many years in a row that we were playing 100 people per game, one of the most in the nation. That's who they are. They're a team that likes to get rotation. They're a team that likes to have people finding breaks, finding rest, getting off the field for a couple seconds. They're used to running 9, 10 guys on offensive line just rotating in and out. This year, we don't have 9 or 10, but it feels like we have a solid 8 that we can trust, a solid 8 that we can lean on. But Ryan Linthicum is getting his first career start on Saturday, and that he's getting at a huge position. A lot of people think, yeah, the center is important. I mean, they do so much, right? Like they just snap the ball and that starts it. That's important. You got snap and then guard. And yes, that's hard. But there's 4 big areas of why the center is so important. Number 1, snap consistency. Not only do they have to get the quarterback the ball, they have to get him the ball in a set position, in a set way, in a set location every single time to allow Cade Klubnik get in a rhythm. He can't just put it back there. He's got to put it exactly where Cade likes it, in a spot where Cade can easily grab it and get right to his rhythm. I mean, we're big on 3-step drops. If Cade's having in those 3 steps, fumble with the ball, move it around before he can look it out, it's messing up all of his timing, all of his rhythm, all of his footwork. So he's got to get the ball consistently in the right spot. Also with that too, he can't be fumbling it. We can't have high snaps. We can't have missed handles on the snaps. Georgia doesn't need help. We don't need to help them with turnovers. So getting the ball accurately, consistently over and over again is very important. Number 2, why center is important, is line leadership. The center is often the ones that calls out the blocking schemes, talks about adjustments. If they're like identifying the mic or calling a little shift, calling a slide, if the defense is showing something, the center is usually the one that call that out. Linthicum's got to come out here and be able to vocalize and be a leader, even if he's not the true leader of the offensive line, which I'm expecting Blake Miller to be. He's still got to be the one that's calling out, and he's got to help with that line leadership. Number 3 is pass protection. Simple. 28 snaps last year. And oftentimes the sacks come off the edge, but if the center's not a starter, they can bust right through on a safety blitz, a linebacker blitz up the middle. If the center's not paying attention, shifting how he should, picking up who he should, that'll be open every single time. He's got to be the one that's there fighting off those powerful defensive tackles. The ability to hold the line is successful and pivotal for the passing game. And the 4th area why it's important is the running blocks. In running plays, the center's ability to create lanes or secure blocks at the point of attack can make or break the play. If we're running an HP draw to the right, right up the middle on the right side, the center's got to be one to push the front defensive tackle out of the way so that line can be there. If we're running a block to the right side, if we're in like an HP sweep outside, the center's got to get over there. He's got to snap and continue to move the play. He's got to be doing that. I'm a big Eagles fan. Nobody shows off the potential of an amazing center like Jason Kelce did. You saw him doing things that centers don't do. I mean, running up the field 30 yards in front of the running back making blocks, that's not normal. But the center has the potential to make that kind of impact. So with those 4 big areas, I'm nervous about Ryan Linthicum getting that start. Everything I've said says he's going to be great. Everything I've said says that it's going to be a great showing for him. But in order for Georgia to be well, in order for us to beat Georgia, in order for us to hang in there with them, Ryan Linthicum has to play excellent in his first career start as our center on Saturday. Stop talking about offensive line. Now let's switch to the D-line. When it comes to Georgia and Clemson, who has the upper hand? Who has the advantage when it comes down to these key defensive line matchups? Saturday, I already know I'm going to play basketball in the morning with a group of friends. And then I'm going back home and watching football all day long. But you never know. It's football season from 12 o'clock on Eastern time all the way late at night. I might need a little pick-me-up energy. And the thing I always turn to is for sure 5-hour energy. I grab a 5-hour energy to stay alert to watch all my favorite games. And maybe even if I stayed up late to see the intense overtime game that's going to happen later on, you never know. Take a 5-hour energy shot the next morning so I could start my day well energized. With zero sugar A convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, and my favorite berry. And more, there's more than enough flavor for everybody. Try them all. On the site, you even have an option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors delivered right to your front door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5energy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today. Use my code LOCKEDONCollegeFootball or LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5-Hour Energy today. When it comes to the defensive line, Clemson and Georgia are tied. I know we've been going through this series leading up to this game on Saturday where we break through all of the positions. We talked about the quarterback, how Carson Beck with Georgia has the advantage there. We talked about running back where we lean towards Clemson. Other people lean towards Trevor Etienne and the Bulldogs. We talked about wide receivers with the matchups there, the offensive line. Now we're talking about the defense. And we started yesterday talking about the secondary, and we gave a little bit of a nod to Georgia for the secondary. Now today we're talking about defensive line. And for the first time, we're putting it as a draw. We're putting it as a split. Both these teams have some of the best defensive lines in the nation. In my opinion, these are the top two defensive lines. When it comes to pure player talent, player recognition, and people on the field, it seems like Georgia takes the advantage. The key for Georgia is strictly who's on the defensive line for them. I mean, they've got the amazing Michael Williams. They've got Nazir Stackhouse. They've got Warren Brinson, all really good guys, a really good, talented defensive line. On the bench, they've got a transfer freshman redshirt, Xavier McLeod. They've got Jamal Jarrett. They've got Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. They've got some great players on that side. When it just comes down to pure talent, Georgia takes the advantage. Now, if you flip it up for Clemson, we've got some players with big talent, right? I mean, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, splitting the left D end, the right D end. Those two are a monster. DeMonte Capehart, Peyton Page in the middle. On the bench, you've got Vic Burley, Trey Williams, Kay Denhoff, AJ Hoffler. You've got some great ones, right? But with all that, Georgia might have the overall talent, but you can't beat the tradition and the true history of how amazing Clemson defensive line is. I know some people are going to be like, Georgia's defensive line is a monster. Just look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Trust me, I know. I agree with you. But Clemson is DLU. They are the ones that produce year in, year out, every single year, top pick in the drafts, consistently drafted NFL players, and they're one that's always known for having one of the best D-lines in the nation. They've gone all the way back to Shaq Lawson, to Dexter Lawrence, to Christian Wilkins. You've got so many amazing defensive line alumni from Clemson. I know you can say that about Georgia as well, and because you can say that about Georgia as well, that's why we're putting it as a tie. The defensive line is extremely important. When you're talking about the D-line, you got to focus on a couple of different areas. One, the pass game. Sometimes, yes, the pass game, the main important is to get to the quarterback. You've got to be able to rush 3 or 4. If you have a D-line that can't get to the quarterback ever when you're only rushing 3 or 4, you're not going to have a successful game in the passing game because you're having to drop so many people all the time in coverage, and you're never getting to the quarterback, giving them plenty of time. Where if you have a good D-line, as both these teams do, where sometimes you can only blitz or rush 3 defensive players and still they're going to get to the quarterback, then your 8 people in coverage might be a lot, to stop them, and you're getting to the quarterback. That's where plays are won. That's where games are won. It's so cliche, but games are won in the trenches. And one of the keys for this game is Clemson's got to win this game on the defensive line. Our defensive line cannot be reliant on blitz to get to the quarterback. We've got to be able to get to the quarterback, only sending 3 or 4 so we can keep the coverage, keep Carson Beck having so many defenders to try to work around, and having people up in his face, getting to him, sacking him, forcing him to drop back, forcing him to hurry up. That's got to be important. Both these teams have the talent. I mean, TJ Parker, Peter Woods for Clemson, and then Georgia, Michael Williams, and Nazir Stackhouse. Both these players have the top-tier talent, but they also have the alumni, the history, the program strength of the defensive line position. The pass game is important. The running game is as well. If the offensive line can move the D-line to make all these holes, make all these lanes, use the systems, use schemes to switch them up where they can get open lanes, you're not going to have a good day. I mean, that's self-explanatory, but if the running backs can run through the gaps, if the D lines can, or if offensive line can shift the opposing D line into different areas, they're going to run all over you. And if you're running all over you, that's where the dirt raid comes in, right? The dirt raid that we talk about, you run, so you can pass, right? If the D line isn't there, if the D line's not competitive, not sticking with it, not showing problems, not causing issues, and not preventing those blocks, preventing those lanes, preventing those wide open alleys for the running back to go through, that's a problem. So the defensive line is important to stop the pass, to put some pressure on it, to not allow the quarterback to get comfortable. But it's also important to assure that the running backs aren't able to do whatever they want. When it comes down to the defensive line, for the first time in this positional breakdown, Clemson and Georgia are tied on the defensive line. And with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. Now go check out Locked On College Football podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McCaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Later this week, we're going to continue 2 more episodes to preview as we get closer and closer to kickoff. Hey, we also want to let you know, make sure you join the Insider Locked On Clemson Insider program. So when the game starts, you have time to message us one-on-one, send us texts mid-game about reactions, but also bonus access to bonus episodes like film breakdowns and mailbag episodes. To join the Locked On Clemson Insider program, text Clemson to 864-252-1907. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Drop a comment, hit us up on Twitter, send us an email. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast or wherever you get your podcast at, or over on YouTube. That way, every day we can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Make sure to check out other podcasts from Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers!